A British oil firm is accused of corruption in a Somalia exploration deal. An attempt at fixing Nairobi's air pollution problem amid lax laws and poor enforcement. And a high-wire movie with special effects that are so realistic, it's making people sick, but in a good way. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. First to Guinea, where political tensions are rising ahead of a presidential election. At least 80 people were injured during fighting over the weekend between rival political groups. The riots pitted supporters of President Alpha Conde's rally of the Guinean People Party against those of his main rival, Cellou Dalein Diallo of the Union of Democratic Forces of Guinea. Guinea, a former French colony, has a long history of ethnic tensions. In a statement, the European Union described the election campaign as extremely tense and called on all sides to refrain from violence. Now, for some perspective, Vincent Makori, an analyst with the International Crisis Group, joins us via Skype from Dakar, Senegal. Mr. Makori, welcome to Africa 54.
Thanks.
Now, first, from your understanding, what is really behind the skirmishes that we witnessed over the weekend?
Well, there was during the campaign, the president of Conde himself became president of the electoral commission, and his supporters felt confident enough to apparently try and force everybody into stopping their businesses, including there are many Fula who are shopkeepers throughout Guinea, and the Fula tend to be favorable to the leading opposition party, and so Alpha Conde supporters tried to have them close shop, and this did not go well, and there were skirmishes, there were shots exchanged, and there were, as the news reported, there were several dozen people wounded.
Now, we know that one of the issues in the upcoming election is that the opposition feels that there are going to be irregularities for sure. What makes them think so?
Well, if you look at the record, the past two elections in 2010 and 2013, which were pretty much the first competitive elections in Guinea's post-colonial history, those two elections were very disputed, very controversial. If you read the reports from the serious electoral observations missions, for instance, those of the European Union and the African Union, the number of irregularities and improprieties and problems that they quote is actually immense. So there's the opposition has got some reasons to be concerned.
Now, the opposition would want this election to be postponed until those issues are rectified. If the elections are not postponed, what do you think as the prospect for an election come next Monday?
Well, if you look at Guinea's past history, it seems that violence is actually stronger during the campaign than on election day or after election day, and I think we're still not very clear. The regime has been actually pretty good at fending off mass protests by the opposition, which they tried to organize earlier this year to try and get the government to give some more, to make some more gestures in terms of electoral transparency. So it seems that whatever mobilization there is, and there might be, the regime is actually prepared to face it, and it's not even sure that mobilization will be that strong. I think the context of the campaign is what matters. You've got militants during the campaign who are eager to show to their leaders that they are ready and doing the work, and people get a bit excited. But I think on election day things should be calmer, and I'm not that worried. I mean, certainly anything that can be done to appease right now, I think it would be very welcome. I think it's important that the authorities make as much as they can, and certainly a delay would help to improve things a bit. Again, the number of controversial points is still very, very high. But at the same time, I'm not sure, even though there is an ethnic element in Guinean politics, I'm not sure how enthused all Guineans are about, ethnic mobilization.
And we know anyway, it's just a few days away. Let's hope some wise decision will be made and lives will be preserved. Thanks a lot, Mr. Fouché, for your perspectives.
You're welcome.
And now that is Vincent Fouché, an analyst with the International Crisis Group, who joined us via Skype from Dakar, Senegal. Well, a British oil exploration firm has been accused of paying off government officials in Somalia in return for rights to explore offshore for oil and gas. Now, the company, however, strongly denies the claims and says the deal could kickstart Somalia's war-ravaged economy. VOA's Henry Ridgwell reports from London.
No one knows how much oil lies off Somalia's coastline, but some industry experts estimate the figure at 110 billion barrels. Unlike these oil fields off Kenya, Somalia's reserves are largely untapped. In 2013, the British start-up firm Soma Oil and Gas signed an exclusive deal with the Somali government to explore for hydrocarbons. Soma's chief executive, Bob Shepherd, told VOA there is huge potential.
So we think we've really started the hydrocarbon regime in Somalia, and there'll be, as a result of that, we're hoping with a bit of luck and some patience and commitment that Somalia can turn to be one of the major hydrocarbon provinces in East Africa.
The deal included what's known as a capacity building program, intended, says Shepherd, to pay the wages of key personnel like geologists. But a confidential United Nations report leaked to the media says Soma paid $500,000 to senior Somali officials, including the head of Somalia's oil ministry.
We think the allegations are baseless. Soma has always conducted its operations in a lawful and ethical manner.
Britain's Serious Fraud Office has launched an investigation into the deal, and Somalia's government says it is also examining the claims. But Mogadishu's oil ministry points out that Soma was the only company willing to take the security risk of exploring off Somalia, one of the world's most unstable countries. Somalia's president said this week the country is working to attract further investment.
Since we came to the office, Somalia has been working very hard to attract direct foreign investment in the near future. To make that dream true, we have been preparing for the legal framework that makes this happen in the ground.
Soma Oil and Gas wants to be among the first to make a direct investment in Somalia. But first, the company faces investigations into the allegations of corruption. Henry Ridgwell for VOA News, London.
Well, nearly 4 million people die worldwide of complications from outdoor air pollution, according to the United Nations. Kenya's capital, Nairobi, recently helped launch a UN-backed air monitoring system aimed at controlling the problem. But activists say pollution laws already on the books are too lax, enforcement is weak, and people's health is suffering. VOA's Steve Baragona has more.
Evan Ngare is pinning his future on sports.
I'm an upcoming footballer, trying to get myself out of this ghetto through football.
Ngare and his friends in Nairobi's Babadogo neighborhood play in the shadow of a PZ Cousins cosmetics factory. It pumps out smoke in Technicolor.
Sometimes it comes out red, sometimes the smoke is yellow, sometimes the smoke is green. You don't know what chemicals are used there.
And when it blows their way, he says they can feel it.
It's very strong, and at times you get it even under your chest. You feel there's something inside you.
Well, that smokestack is pouring out smoke. Right on the other side of the wall, you've got people living here and working here and playing here. It's a situation that's all too common in Kenya, says air quality expert Kanyiva Muindi with the nonprofit African Population and Health Research Center.
So you'll find an industrial park, and next to it is a residential area. I don't think we've thought what that would mean to our health.
PZ Cousins declined to be interviewed. A company report says the emissions are within legal limits and don't pose a hazard. But Muindi says they do. She says this kind of pollution raises people's risk of pneumonia, heart disease, lung cancer, asthma, and more. And she adds the plume travels far beyond the slum.
So it could actually be carrying to the city center and beyond, to even most of the residential areas that are considered rich. So we are all at risk.
Kenya's Environment Secretary, Judy Wakungu, admitted shortcomings, even as she helped launch a UN-backed air pollution monitoring system. Just enforcing existing laws is, in her words, a work in progress.
We're trying to enhance our ability to enforce and to implement. It's a tall order, but we're doing our best.
The National Environment Management Authority and Nairobi County officials declined or did not respond to interview requests. Muindi says they should be held accountable.
People should know that this is their right. We are entitled to a clean environment. The Constitution tells us that. So we should actually take it up to ourselves and complain when we can.
That way, the dreams of aspiring athletes will not go up in smoke. Steve Baragona, VOA News, Nairobi.
We're turning now to the European migrant crisis. Rough winter seas have deterred some, but not all, from making the dangerous journey in small boats. Jeff Swyko reports from the Greek island of Lesbos, where more migrants are continuing to arrive in Greece and the EU from Turkey.
Thank you, Europa. Thank you.
New arrivals on the Greek island of Lesbos after a rough boat ride from the Turkish mainland.
Very bad. Very bad.
According to the United Nations Refugee Agency, UNHCR, there has been a dramatic drop in the number of migrants arriving in Lesbos in the past week. Patrick Mansour is UNHCR's chief of mission in Lesbos.
Yesterday we had arrivals about 2,500. Usually we can have everything between 2,500 up to some days we had at most at 6,600 crossing into Lesbos from the Turkish side. You have 55 people on such boats crossing over.
Mansour says rougher winter waves are stopping some migrants from making the crossing, but some still attempt the dangerous journey, and he worries cheaply made smugglers' boats like these won't survive the 3-kilometer trip from Turkey.
Like it's made for lakes and rivers, like still water. It's not made for sea.
These boats can hold 8 to 10 people. The smugglers pack them with up to 60 migrants, each one paying as much as $1,500. It's a one-way trip for the migrants, boats, and small 15 to 20 horsepower engine. The smugglers do not come along. They designate a driver, point out a direction, and send them on their way.
And if an engine fails, they can drift. I mean, sometimes they're supposed to come a bit northeast from here, but they arrive towards the airport area.
Amr Ghazmadi from Damascus, Syria, says some of the smugglers are overloading the boats at gunpoint.
When the people don't want to get in the boat, they force them by the gun. That happened last night with a group of people. The boat stopped in the water and the Greece Coast Guard helped them.
Lesbos is a quick stop for the migrants. The people at this registration camp near Karatepe, outside the port city of Mytilene, said they only had been there for a day. They rest, then pack into cabs and ride into town. There they buy ferry tickets to Athens. Osama, an electrical engineer from Baghdad, said he was excited to continue his journey.
We got our documents and we're going to move now. Actually, at the beginning to Germany. We will check our plan.
UNHCR officials stress that the decline in numbers of migrants is temporary. They say if there's an improvement in sea conditions, the numbers will rise again. Jeff Swyko, VOA News, Mytilene, Greece.
We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. And check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vince Makori. Coming up, the Oregon mass shooting rekindles debate on gun violence in the U.S. Stay with us.
Science and technology, here's what's new.
What's new? Rubber that repairs itself. For the first time, scientists at the Leibniz Institute for Polymer Research in Dresden, Germany, have made tire-grade rubber without the processing step called vulcanization that's been essential to inflatable tires since their invention. Vulcanization means once something sharp cuts tire rubber, the tire usually can't be repaired for long-term use. This new process avoids vulcanization and modifies the rubber into a durable, elastic material that can actually fix itself over time. The researchers say a cut in this new material heals quickly at room temperature, and after 8 days, the rubber could withstand a tire pressure considerably higher than current standards. Add a little heat, and the self-repair process happens even quicker. For VOA's What's New, I'm Todd Grossans.
Welcome back. Now, last week's deadly mass shooting at an Oregon college has revived the politically polarizing issue of gun violence in the United States. The debate is expected to be fierce on Capitol Hill, where legislation aimed at curbing America's firearms mortality rate, the highest among developed nations, has not moved forward for years. Now, VOA's Michael Bowman reports.
An outpouring of shock and grief in Oregon.
I don't know what to feel right now. I'm terrified. I don't want to go back there for a long time.
Comes months after a mass shooting at a South Carolina church and nearly 3 years after a bloodbath at a Connecticut elementary school.
We've become numb to this.
A visibly angry President Barack Obama is demanding action.
This is a political choice that we make. To allow this to happen every few months in America. We collectively are answerable to those families who lose their loved ones because of our inaction.
Those running to succeed Obama are speaking out.
I know there is a way to have sensible gun control measures that help prevent violence, prevent guns from getting into the wrong hands, and save lives.
One Republican contender points a finger at the president.
He immediately took the opportunity to try to politicize the tragedy and not target the bad guys, not target the criminals, but instead try to strip away the constitutional rights of law-abiding citizens.
And another questions the need for action.
Look, stuff happens. There's always a crisis. And the impulse is always to do something, and it's not necessarily the right thing to do.
In 2013, a bill to better scrutinize firearms purchasers was blocked in the Senate by gun rights defenders. Today's Republican-led Congress has even fewer members willing to consider gun control legislation. The president is undeterred.
This will not change until the politics changes and the behavior of elected officials changes. And so the main thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about this on a regular basis.
The Democratic leader in the House of Representatives is calling for a special commission to probe gun violence and recommend legislative solutions. Meanwhile, America's biggest gun rights lobbying group, the National Rifle Association, has yet to officially comment on the Oregon tragedy or the political firestorm it rekindled. Michael Bowman, VOA News, Washington.
Well, now here's a changing demographic landscape in the United States. Asians are projected to be the largest immigrant group in the U.S. by 2055. Asians already are the largest immigrant group in some cities, and many of them speak Chinese. Now, a growing number of police departments and city officials are trying to reach them through Chinese social media. Elizabeth Lee reports from an area called the San Gabriel Valley, just east of Los Angeles.
This may seem like an outdoor market somewhere in Asia, but it's only 10 miles from downtown Los Angeles. It's in a region called the San Gabriel Valley and is a mecca for Chinese-speaking immigrants like Yang Yunye.
Those of us who are elderly and living here in San Gabriel can adapt because there isn't much of a difference from China.
In the city of San Gabriel, Asians make up 60% of the population, and most of them are Chinese. To better communicate with residents, the city turned to a Chinese microblogging website called Weibo earlier this year.
Almost overnight, we got about 2,000 followers, which is about how many we have on our Facebook account, which has been going on for years.
The idea of using Chinese social media actually came from a neighboring community called Alhambra. 2 years ago, Alhambra Police became the first U.S. police department to open a Weibo account.
We had 3 times more followers in 2 years on Weibo than we did on Facebook, and that was up for 5 or 6 years.
Alhambra Police now have more than 40,000 followers on Weibo. Many of them live in China. At the start of 2015, Alhambra Police also began using another Chinese social media site called WeChat. Wendy Lee with the Alhambra Police says they use it as a community messaging system. She says communicating through social media helps immigrants get comfortable with local law enforcement.
Once there was a person who told me the police back home were like gangsters. Of course, this is an extreme view, but because of this, they have a fear of police.
Chinese social media also give people overseas a window into the U.S.
This isn't a television show. It's coming from our little community right onto their computer or their iPad.
Several other police departments in the San Gabriel Valley have followed Alhambra's lead and have Weibo accounts.
A lot of the cities, especially in our area, have a really large Chinese-speaking population, and Facebook and Twitter just don't cut it anymore.
Alhambra Police say agencies on the East Coast are also inquiring about Chinese social media and how to start an account. Elizabeth Lee for VOA News, San Gabriel, California.
Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54. Why is a film about a dead devil stunt making people sick? We'll be right back.
But we also want to express our appreciation. El carácter invariable de nuestra
Welcome back to Africa 54. Here's what's trending. A new film special effects are so real that moviegoers are vomiting, literally. Viewers with vertigo have been caught off balance by the 3D flick, The Walk, about the dead devil who walked a tightrope between the Twin Towers. Joseph Gordon-Levitt plays Frenchman Philippe Petit, who snagged to the top of the World Trade Center in 1974 and performed his death-defying act over 1,000 feet above the ground without a net. Computer imagery recreated the terrifying wire walk, which was not caught on film from above in real life. A 2013 study found that about 55% of 497 people who watched a 3D movie reported at least one physical complaint. About 10% felt queasy. Well, next up, this is what $494 million could buy you in Los Angeles last year. But with no takers, the vendors are being forced to slash the asking price to a bargaining basement law of $149 million. The property is a gated 25-acre estate with a Mediterranean-style villa that stands on top of a private hill in the Beverly Hills area. Its hefty price tag means it's one of the most expensive residential publicly listed properties on the U.S. market today. The initial asking price was a market record in the U.S. at the time. time. The 35,000 square foot house includes 25 bathrooms, a 50-seater movie theater, a fully operational disco, and enough room to host over 1,000 guests. Well, and finally, a former Olympian and reality TV star, Caitlyn Jenner, will not be charged in connection with that crash in Malibu earlier this year that killed a 69-year-old woman. Based on the facts in the case prosecutors lacked evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that Jenner's conduct was unreasonable, according to documents provided by Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office. Bruce Jenner was known to young generations as the patriarch of reality TV's Kardashian clan before announcing he was transgender. Caitlyn Jenner is now the star of our own reality TV show, I Am Kate, centered on her transition. And that is what is trending today. Well, it's been an exciting week in sport. For all of the highlights, we turn to Sonny Young with the sunny side of sports. Sonny.
Hi, Vincent, and sporty greetings once again to our Africa 54 viewers. Boxing great Muhammad Ali has been honored by Sports Illustrated magazine. The 73-year-old Ali recently appeared on the cover of Sports Illustrated, which renamed its Legacy Award in honor of the great fighter. The ceremony in Ali's hometown of Louisville, Kentucky, brought together stars from boxing and other sports. There's Big Shaq, two former heavyweight champions who both fought Ali, Larry Holmes and George Foreman, praised the man nicknamed the greatest. Foreman got knocked out by Ali in the 8th round in the epic Rumble in the Jungle in Kinshasa in 1974. He says the honor is great recognition for Ali and boxing.
Well, this is a great honor not only for Muhammad Ali, but it's a great honor for boxing. Finally, something good is done and said. Sports Illustrated is recognizing a guy that not only loved boxing, but he loved Sports Illustrated.
Sports Illustrated loves Muhammad Ali, too. The magazine has put Ali on the cover 39 times. Only basketball great Michael Jordan, with 50 appearances, has been on the cover more times. I'm VOA Sonny Young, and that's the sunny side of sports. Vincent?
Well, thanks a lot, Sonny. And remember to watch for the sunny side of sports every Monday and Friday right here on Africa 54. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, turn into VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight, at 1800 UTC, and in the mornings to Daybreak Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks a lot for watching. From all of us in Washington, have a good night.
At stake is the basic human right of the woman and child.
This is a struggle against humanity, and we all need to join hands and do what we can do.
Women are not being heard, so we need to be doing a lot more.
A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. I'm Sally Field, and I believe women are the best agents of change. These women from around the world are leading the way to challenge the status quo and motivate the next generation.
Let's move on and take a step in this journey.
Access to preventive care information and access to health care is a fundamental right.
It really makes me think about how I can contribute to the next generation.
These women bring us one step closer to realizing women's rights as human rights. Only on VOA.
I'm Vincent Makori from Africa 54. This is VOA. Follow us on Africa 54. Go to facebook.com/VOA Africa 54.